Has the feel-good factor returned to Britain? It seems to be the question on the mind of journalists across the land right now. But are they completely balmy? Have they got it right? Yes, we've had Wimbledon success. There are positive signs of the economy. And, of course, the summer has arrived with a vengeance at the weekend. But does life genuinely feel better for you nowadays? If you're out of work, do the prospects look any better? Does the success of Murray and the British Lions mean the world is a better place for all of us? Get on the phone. Give me a call right now. 08453 009956. You can text me 81333. Start your text with GT. And emails, please, to gt@bbc.co.uk. Let's look at the economic side of the feel-good factor. The economy may make you roll your eyes, but if you're going to feel better, it's about the pound in your pocket. And more of them, surely. A falling economy will help nobody. So it's a good job that the latest figures are suggesting things are moving in the right direction. I'm joined now by economist and wealth manager Jonathan Davis. Jonathan, thanks very much indeed for coming onto the programme tonight.
Good evening, Graham.
Why may people be feeling a little bit better on average, do you think, Jonathan?
There's no doubt that Andy Murray and the rugby players and the cricketers, great stuff, and the summer and the sun, brilliant. But I think people are more encouraged by, as you say, what's happening financially. And the budget 3 months ago was a bit of a game changer in the sense that all the various schemes to help the housing market, or in other words, to stop the housing prices from collapsing, have probably all come together now, and they're successful. House prices will probably rise, even in the Midlands, because they haven't, of course, for the last few years.
Well, I think I read somewhere today that house prices are going up something like £65 a day. Is that right?
It could easily be, but the bulk of that is in central London.
Right.
That's the issue. And although house prices nationally have not collapsed over the last several years, the reality is that they have in some regions. But when you bring in what's been happening in London, it averages out to the national figure, and that's all you see. But even in the Midlands, prices have been falling for the last few years. But getting back to your question, yes. The budget was a game changer, so house prices have now steadied. They'll rise probably for a couple of years. On top of that, we've had the lowest interest rates, mortgage rates, which we've had for years, the lowest in history. And then on top of that, we haven't seen unemployment dramatically rise. What, however, we have seen is the number of people who were previously employed, they're now either self-employed, not earning as much, or part-time. So actually, aggregate income, which is total household income, has actually been falling, while, because of Bank of England policies slamming down the value of sterling, the British pound, that means our import costs have gone up, so the cost of living has risen while our incomes have been falling.
And yesterday, the International Monetary Fund raised its growth forecast for the UK. This year it was from 0.7% to 0.9%. Yeah. Doesn't sound like much, but what does this mean to general public, me and my mates walking down the street?
Yeah, it doesn't mean a great deal because putting that into context, because of whatever the population growth of the UK is, we have to have about 2 to 3% growth per annum just to stand still. And whether or not they're saying it's going up to about 1% or not, it's still slower than we need just to keep our current standard of living. And you need to consider not just the short term. Look, I'm here saying that the economy and people will feel financially better off for the next couple of years, which, no coincidence, is the next election. But you can achieve anything if, as this government is doing, if you borrow £100 billion a year and put it into the economy. And this is the point. At some point in the future, and actually, my guesstimate is it's going to start in the second half of the decade, sort of 2016, maybe 2017, that sort of area, that interest rates will start to rise. And Graham, they fell for a generation. They're going to rise for a generation. And on top of that, we have got massive amounts of debt in the United Kingdom. Government debt, household debt, business debt. At some point, the banks are going to come and say, pay us it back.
Jonathan, we've got a new head of the Bank of England. He arrived last week. Economists seem to be happy about his appointment.
Yeah.
Will he make a difference?
Yeah. Well, bearing in mind that 99 out of 100 economists did not foresee the biggest economic and financial collapse in history, which took place 5 years ago. Some of us did. And those of us who did are saying that Mark Carney, is already in the process of creating carnage. What do I mean by that? We've seen, in advance of his arrival and subsequently, the value of sterling plummet on international markets. And as I say, that means that our import costs rise for us buying something from abroad. And what do we buy? I'll tell you what the biggest thing is: fuel. Obviously, we need fuel, we need heat and light simply for our way of life, and the cost of living is rising. No doubt, if you keep interest rates low as long as you can, then it will be short-term positive. Mortgage holders, for example, will continue to benefit from low rates. Of course, savers are screwed, but in the long term, the piper will have to be paid.
Okay.
And all these people who are rushing out now to take out loans, they are not seeing that at some time in the future, interest rates will be significantly higher than today.
Okay, Jonathan, finally, let's give some hope for the next generation. What are the prospects for the next generation?
Oh, there's no hope. If you had any idea, if your listeners had any idea of the amount of debt in society, as I say, the next couple of years, you can expect stability and people to feel better financially. But I'll tell you, within 20 years, you heard it here first, say goodbye to the welfare state.
Jonathan, thank you very much indeed for joining me on the programme tonight.